the tone, please state your name followed by the pound sign.
Symphony. So all the Symphony Next source code is under Symphony/30/ML. Under the source directory, there's a folder called UI, and you can see submodules like core, widgets, web shell. So for those who have been using classic Symphony, right? So core contains some utility method that is used by the framework, which is the places where we package all the widgets provided by Symphony. And for other reusable components that constitute the overall shell, right, including workspaces and panels. So you can find all these under the web shell. We also built some API in Symphony Next that the consumer can use for configuring the overall shell. So if you want to build a simple web app using Symphony Next, the UI pieces, the minimum set of resources that you need to include in your web app. So now if you go, look at the features directory, so features packages some additional components that you can include in your web application, but these are not mandatory. So things like IMF, right? So if your application uses IMF, or if you want to use Symphony's inbox, you can package these additional resources in your application. You can see a corresponding OSGI folder for features and UI. So this is only if you're using the existing OSGI backend provided by Symphony. For example, if you're using Symphony's REST endpoint to fetch an IMF object from MRS, right? So you will continue finding the existing Symphony OSGI plugins under this directory. But in this meeting, I'm going to just cover building a simple web application without OSGI. So I will not be spending time talking about these OSGI plugins. So besides the source folder, we also have a showcase folder. So the showcase folder contains the other applications that we built using Symphony Next. So Amit has previously showed the Dolphin and Sonata, so you can actually find the source code that we are writing to build these two applications under the showcase directory. Okay, so now to get started, right? So what do I need to do to build my own web application using Symphony? So I will first of all go to Dolphin that Amit showed earlier. So in the documentation here, we provide a link to the latest Symphony build that is certified. So I can just download the zip file here. If you open the zip file, let's say you look at the JavaScript folder, so you can see that we have the core, which is web shell script here, and then we have one script for each of the rest of the optional features, such as IMF and inbox. We have a similar structure for other directory like images and locale that packages the message files. Okay, so now I would like to. Okay, so if you're just building with simple web application without using IMF and inbox, right? You can choose to include only the scripts that your application needs. But for the simplicity purpose, I'll just include everything in my web application. So here I have a web application where I already have a index.html file. I also have a web XML file with actually nothing in it because I'm not focusing on the backend right now. So what I would do is I'll actually bring all these Symphony artifacts to my web application. And what I would do next is in my index.html, I will include the Symphony resources that I need. And as I mentioned before, core, widgets, web shell, and API are the minimum set of script that you will need to include in your application. And notice that here, I'm also including the jQuery library. So unlike the classic Symphony that packages its own version of jQuery, with Symphony next, we no longer package these third-party libraries. So then consumer can control what version of jQuery or Bootstrap that they would like to use. And you can see that in my web application, I have already included the jQuery library here. And of course, if you want to make use of the Bootstrap layout that I showed earlier in Dolphin, you also need to include your Bootstrap library here. Okay, so now I have included all the Symphony resources, right? So what should I do next? How can I get the header and workspace to show up, right? So the thing that you need to do is you need to ask Symphony to initialize itself and start populating the page. So you need to write some script that talks to a Symphony interface called the Symphony Core. So Symphony Core is the primary interface that you use to configure the overall shell, including the header as well as the workspace. Okay, so now I have Symphony Core, right? What do I do next? So if I were you, I would just go to Dolphin and look at the documentation. So we have an article that talks about how to configure the overall shell. And here, the first thing that is talking about is how to configure the header that you see on the top. So let's say I just want to make it very simple for now, right? I just want to get my app up and running. So all I want is just putting a product name here. So there are lots of other options that you can put to control whether you want to have the search showing up, notification, or other additional menu items. But let me just start by specifying the product name to my application. So what I would do is I would call configure header and passing the label as an option. So I will call my product demo. Okay, so now I'm done with initializing my header. And I want to now create a simple workspace, maybe just put a hello world text in my workspace. And so what do I need to do? So if you scroll down to the bottom of the documentation, we actually talked about how someone can configure workspaces. So again, the Symphony Core interface provides another method for you to add workspaces to the page. And there are 3 different types of workspaces. So asset workspace are the ones that so when you open an object, it will open one tab for that specific object, and you can have multiple tabs. So you can close these objects independently. So we call this the asset workspace. Fixed workspace are actually the fixed workspaces that you see here. So they show up all the time. The end user cannot close these workspaces. And floating workspace are the ones that are more like transient. So you open the workspace show up in the page, but there's no corresponding tab in the navigation bar. So we'll cover workspaces more in detail maybe in the next Symphony meeting, but for the demo today, I will just keep it simple by creating a fixed workspace. So to create a fixed workspace, I will specify the fixed WS option. And here it is expecting an array of workspaces, and in my case, I will have only one entry. So I'll just do a copy and paste. And icon, I will just skip this for now. Label, I will call this my workspace. Workspace ID and position, I only have one workspace right now, so I'm going to skip the position. Okay, so there is one more thing that you need to specify, which is the content provider for your workspace. So this is a JavaScript class that you need to implement to control how your workspace should look like. So this is an example of how the implementation will look like. So if you would like to have a banner for your workspace, you will set this show panel title to be true. You can also control whether you would like to have panels inside your workspace. And for now, I want to keep it simple. So all I will do is implement init content method. So what this method does is the framework will create a div for you for your workspace. So all you need to do is to populate the div. So what I do is I will create a new JavaScript class. I will call it demo workspace content provider. So just for simplicity purpose, I'm putting the JavaScript class in the same file, but you probably, when you build a real app, right, your code can be so sophisticated, complex that you probably want to have a new file for each class. So given the div, I will just put a simple message for now. I will testing my workspace. So I'll expect this string to show up in my workspace. Okay, so so currently I'm packaging the Symphony resources here. So I have my app-specific script in a separate folder. So I will put this, so since this file is, consumer specific, I put it in a separate folder under app.js. And I call this app.js. Okay, I think I'm missing something here. Okay, so I have this file, Now I will need to include it in my index HTML.
Connie, one question, this is Thomas. I think one of the things that you mentioned about the Symphony shell is that this is also should help us to kind of measure or bring multiple applications from different groups into a single application.
Yes.
So all those classes and IDs and anything, are we supporting anything like, I don't know, namespacing or any other way that you know, to help us to avoid collisions?
Yes.
Or anything?
Yes. So the convention, so let's say you are from BGP team, for example, right? So so the convention we have been using right now is inv.w dot, and then you can have your own prefix, right? So if you're building an app, like let's say it's coming from BGP, right? You can basically use this as a namespace.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, and the same with the workspace IDs. This is kind of done by convention.
Yeah, this is the convention we have been using.
Okay. So we need to do some kind of assignment or anything. Okay. Right.
Okay, so why don't I just do this?
Yeah. Okay. So this is we better kind of document it somehow, or I don't know, some best practices to
okay.
So people really,
sure.
Developers usually forget to do this kind of namespace.
Yeah, so we have a document for this in the old Dolphin, so we'll be slowly migrating all the existing documentation to the new Dolphin.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so now I will include the app.js to my application. Okay, so now I will just run a simple script that will package the WAR file for all the files that I have in my web app and deploy it to Tomcat. Oh, maybe something. Let me do that. Okay, so now it's time to do some troubleshooting. Oh, actually, so one thing that I missed is, so I have configured header, configured workspace, but I have not asked Symphony to, first of all, initialize itself. So I'm sorry about that. So there is a very important method called ready. So what this method does is it will basically populate the DOM and also at the same time gather all the message files for based on the correct locale. So before you can do anything with the rest of the Symphony-based API, you will need to, first of all, call ready. So I will call ready first, and then only after that I will be able to configure my header and workspaces. So let me start my Tomcat again. Okay, now you see the header with the label that I just provide in my config header method, and then the first workspace show up here. So now let's say I want to start adding more stuff to my header, right? I want to add a user menu, for example. So what I would do is going back to the Dolphin. So to specify the user or help related menu, right, I will need to implement another JavaScript class and implement a method called getItems, which essentially returns a list of menu items that will show up here on the right-hand side. So maybe I will give you another example by going to our Sonata app. So here you can see that the Sonata app has the settings button and also the user button. And there are one item showing up under each of these buttons. So let's say you want to find out how Sonata is doing it today, right? So what you would do is you will go to the Sonata directory, look for the app.js file, and look at how we are calling the config header today. So if you look at the JavaScript class associated with the user option, which I believe is under the header directory. So you can see that in this JavaScript class, we are returning one entry for the getItems method. So that's why you see the menu called administrator under the user button here. So now let's do something similar to our demo app. So instead of adding a user menu, maybe I will add a help button instead. So I will go back to my app.js file. I will add one more option for my help. Here I will specify a different JavaScript class, info.w.help menu provider. So going back to the Dolphin documentation.
Connie, great question here. So all these for example, the help menu provider, all those APIs and interface, are those documented in the Dolphin site, or do they need to reverse engineer something?
Yes, these are documented, but we can actually add more details to some of these classes, so we will keep enhancing the documentation. But but you should be able to get. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, just asking if when you're referring to documentation, you mean those are the example classes, or is there some tutorials or something more?
So the documentation that we put in Dolphin, it is the specification. So sometimes we put an example here, but depends on the complexity of the example, right? Because there can be many different ways to configure the header, for example. So if you want to look at a more detailed example, right, I would suggest you look at Sonata.
Yeah, so even for the simple thing, for example, if you just show there is an interface for help provider, right? So which I guess this is kind of defined somewhere, but you need to do these get items in this class. So
yes, that's right.
What are my options? How do I know that I need to implement these gate items? If this is just by looking at your sample, or do they have also some wiki page or something that explains to me in English?
Right. I think it's a great question, Tomer. We definitely need to so basically what you're doing is you're using archipelago patterns, and I think what the Symphony team should do is also have one a page on Dolphin per archipelago pattern. So if you want to add a help, then there's a page where it explains to you what are the different options for the help interface and in a search and so on, right? So I think you're right. I think we're just getting started, so bear with us for a couple of iterations while we improve documentation.
Right. No problem. Just to know that it's hard, to reverse engineer long samples sometimes. So it's better even just a pointer in the wiki page can do a great for us.
Yeah, and our goal definitely is to get to inbox zero for Symphony developers. We do not want consumers to be shooting emails, hopefully, to all the developers.
Right.
So, Sri, do you have?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Well, what I'm saying, basically, a good way to start this kind of thing, maybe just having a distributed list or some Slack form or some kind of form that we actually start shooting emails, and when the guys starting to answer the questions, those are being assembled into some sort of knowledge.
Yeah. So if you look here on the screen on the left, there is a community workspace. Tomer, if your team has, somebody who wants to contribute here, we are looking for volunteers to set up a forum for us.
No contribution. We want to ask questions, not to contribute.
But yeah, so it's definitely part of our plan, to get all this in one location, all the facts, all the questions, answers, it's good. So we want Dolphin to be kind of a Stack Overflow for Symphony, right? So all your questions should be answered here.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Yeah. So just to quickly wrap up my demo, so I will just create one item. Actually, maybe I can also create two of these. I call my first menu help content, and when the user clicks on the menu, I will just open Dolphin. And I will also put up one more menu for showing the About dialog box. So of course, in the real world, right, the menus that the user will see is probably based on licensing or the role of the user. So, and you may need to make some back-end call in order to get the list of menu items that the user can see. So instead of returning the array right away, you can also put it in a deferred object. So now you see that there's an additional help menu on the right, and you can see the menu items in actions. So that's all I have for building this simple app. Do you guys want me to go over any additional things here or any other questions related to Symphony Next?
I guess not.
Okay,
Thanks, Tony. No, it was a great demo, and I think to everyone, right? So the whole thing that we are able to show you a live coded demo means we are ready for you, at least for you to go ahead and take Symphony Next for a spin and give us your feedback. That's why we really wanted to do this. So if you guys were having any doubts about how to start with Symphony Next and what to try, hopefully this will give you some ideas. It didn't take long, Connie, to get to what we see here on the screen. So I really recommend taking Symphony Next for a spin. Give us the feedback, especially technical feedback about APIs, feedback about documentation, what all we can improve. Tomer already gave some good inputs, and we will try to address his concerns in near future. But that's the whole idea. We want to have more and more feedback in this forum, and I really hope this will continue to be a highly interactive meeting with lots and lots of technical talks regarding Symphony Next. All right.
Amit, just a quick question. Andy mentioned there was a bug in the previous build for images. So as consumers try this out, what's the best way for them to submit bugs or give feedback?
Right. So the bugs, I would say, we use DevTrack. I know some of you guys have concerns regarding using DevTrack. Internally, we will still use DevTrack, and the ideal would be if you guys can submit your bugs in the DevTrack and just assign it to the team. There is a Symphony DevQ alias that you can assign the bug to, and we'll look into it. Regarding the feedback, I think if the feedback is, I would say it's until we have the community page up where you can, ask questions and to provide inputs, you will have to continue using the emails for any feedback, and then we will hopefully also use your emails either to make changes or put a FAQ on Dolphin for other consumers, right?
All right.
Also, I was hoping, I was hoping we could use this forum also to understand how you are using Symphony in your app, right? And maybe tell us about how we can if we are supporting you enough, if we are solving the use cases that you have in your app on a timely basis and things like that, maybe with the demo or maybe with just a quick verbose update, that would be great. I know we are almost out of time today, and also I guess I don't know how many of you are ready for that kind of an update. So in future, we will try to keep the Symphony demo a little shorter, so we have more time to chat and discuss, and also maybe see some of the product demos from various consumers. Also, I guess last thing is, since I said we'll cover a new topic every time from Symphony as the demo, do you guys have any topic in mind that you want to see next time, or should we just pick it ourselves? Okay, you don't have to answer right now because we still have a month. Just let us know if there is, just give us some time, maybe a week in advance. Just let us know if there is any particular topic you want us to cover in this forum. You think, it's complex, it requires some live coding tutorial. We'll be happy to do that for you. Any questions, concerns? Was this helpful, what we saw here? Andy, Aviz, any feedback?
No.
All right.
If Andy says no, it means it's good.
No, actually, I was about to ask, are you going to have a forum that we can post questions and you guys can help us answer?
Yes, we will. We will have a forum again on the Dolphin, on the community page. We will probably gather some forum. Last thing, maybe just before I wrap up, if you guys want to contribute on Symphony Next, that's also, I think we are encouraging. Feel free if you think you have some great ideas that you want to be part of the framework, and just you are not sure, just talk to us. We'll help you get started. We'll help you contribute to the framework, and maybe every team can benefit from your idea. Right. I would again reiterate, take Symphony for a spin, use it for a POC, use it for your internal projects, use it for external projects, and let us know, your experience so we can improve the framework. All right, if there are no more questions, I'll wrap it up here. Again, thanks, Connie. Thanks, Connie, for the demo.
Sure.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.